Hello and welcome. My name's Chris Molinar, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about 5 different ways that you can proactively promote your listing in 2023 to sell your listing in spite of what's happening in the market. First on the list is to record a professional video virtual tour for your listing. Go ahead and invest some money into doing this. Not only are your sellers going to look at this and see that you stand out when compared to what some of the other realtors are doing, it's also a really great opportunity for you to network with other real estate agents that are in your market. If you're connected on social media with all of the real estate agents in your local market, then when you do a virtual video tour of your listing, not only are you getting second or third set of eyeballs on your listing, you're also getting a new fresh perspective of that property that they probably didn't see when you listed that on the MLS. When you promote your video virtual tour, you're going to want to make sure that you put a link to your listing somewhere in the description of that post so that when people flip through the photos after looking at the video virtual tour on your website, they're going to put their name and email address at the bottom so that you can go ahead and follow up with those potential interested parties later on. What's also really cool about this is when you do these video virtual tours and your clients see that on your social media, they're going to go ahead and share it and they're going to promote it to all of their sphere of influence, and their sphere of influence is also going to get really excited about the fact that their house is for sale. They're going to share it out as well, and you're going to get a lot of additional new eyeballs of people that are essentially within the sphere of influence of your sellers, which are essentially warm prospects of people that could potentially be interested or might know somebody that would be interested in that particular property. Next on the list is a realtor open house, not a traditional open house. However, I will say that you can also utilize social media to invite realtors and also maybe some other people from your sphere of influence to attend the open house. Just because you're hosting an open house for real estate agents doesn't mean that you don't want actual potential buyers to stop in. You're going to want to go ahead and invite the neighbors to stop by at your realtor open house as well. What the heck? Why not? You're hosting open house, might as well get some feedback from the people that live in the area. Make sure that you go above and beyond when inviting realtors to come to your open house, that you don't just send out a mass email. Take it one step further and send personal text messages or even pick up the phone to call and invite these agents to stop by and check out your listing, especially if these agents have recently listed or sold a comparable property in that neighborhood or a similar price range to the property that you currently have listed. And here's what's really cool. When you go to get feedback from the agents that come to your realtor open house, they may or may not have negative comments or positive comments. But here's what I recommend you do. Go ahead and preview all of the competing listings that are currently for sale, that are in similar price ranges or in that same neighborhood, so that if somebody comes at you trying to give you some sort of negative advice or positive advice or neutral advice, because you've went out and looked at all of your competition, you already know where your listing stands in comparison to what else is listed for sale, so that no matter what they say, you have an actual objection handler with information that's based on fact for what's happening in that market in real time today. Next on the list is to revisit your market evaluation if it's been on the market for any period of time. The reason why this is important is because when you originally do your market evaluation, you're going to look at what recently sold and what's currently for sale. But I'm recommending that you take it one step further. I've written down here, you're going to want to make sure that you cross-check what do you actually get for the money for other similar products that are on the market today. You're also going to want to make sure that you see what's sold in your price range since you listed it for sale, because that's new information that you didn't look at when you originally listed it for sale. You're also going to want to make sure that you see what's sold in the neighborhood since you listed for sale, because that's going to help you identify which products are selling and which products aren't selling, which price ranges are selling and which price ranges aren't selling. You're also going to want to make sure that you see what neighborhoods are selling and what neighborhoods aren't, because if that neighborhood that you have your property listed in isn't selling for some reason, that's good information for the seller to know, so that it's not your activities for the reason why it's not selling. Those are some current market trends for the specific location that they have for that listing. You're also going to want to see which agents sold which properties, because you can actually pick up the phone and call the agent that represented the buyer on a competitor's listing or a listing agent from a competing listing that recently sold, and you can find out, even if you haven't been inside of that home, you can see what did that property have that yours doesn't have? What was different about that property that caused that buyer to buy that property and not yours? And also, what was the selling feature of that property? So you can identify why that property sold and why yours didn't. You also want to go through and identify scenarios. What is the perfect ideal buyer for this property? And if you're revisiting this market analysis, you might adjust the way that you're marketing this property slightly based on the fact that there might be more than one potential ideal buyer for this property. Now, of course, the perfect world scenario where you find a particular buyer that sees this house as the best and perfect house for them, that's going to be your highest bidder. However, that might be a unique type of buyer depending on how many people are looking for this particular specific type of property. For example, if this is a very unique home, then there might be a smaller buyer pool for that listing. And if you find somebody that sees it as a perfect fit, great. But if the rest of the buyers are at a little bit of a lesser price point, you might entertain promoting your property to the larger buyer pool, depending on the scenario. You're also going to want to ask the seller, again, what is their goals with this property? Because their motivation might have changed slightly since you listed the property for sale, and you always want to present it in such a light. What is the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario if we sell this property? Best case scenario, we sell it for optimal dollar in the quickest time period. If for whatever reason it doesn't sell, what other options do we have? And here's what I can see based on what could happen. You always need to look at best case and worst case. Next on the list is what we call cancel and relist. Now, this doesn't always need to follow a new price, but in my opinion, anytime that you're doing a new price, I think that it's best practice to do a cancel and relist. The reason why is because all of the agents that actively watch the hot sheet for all of the new listings that come out on a daily and weekly basis will see that property pop up again on the hot sheet. However, because it's not technically a new listing, I recommend you put up a first or at least a different photo that shows up as the first photo when the property gets listed. Because when you put a new perspective on the same property, somebody might take a little bit more time to dig deeper on the details of that property. As well, when a property shows up as a new listing, there's a certain percentage of buyers that are within certain price brackets in certain neighborhoods, so that when a property shows up for sale, it gets automatically emailed out to active prospects and potential buyers in the marketplace, so that when you cancel it and relist it, it will show up again to those people. Again, if your property's been on the market for a little while, you might want to go ahead and do brand new photos, especially if photos were taken in the spring and now it's wintertime, or in the fall and now it's wintertime, or the photos were taken in the winter and now it's spring. You want the photos to reflect the current active market so that your listing doesn't appear to be stale on the market. Another important notable factor is if it's not sold, you don't always necessarily need to revisit the price. Sometimes you can look at, is there some very minor cosmetic upgrades that we could do to the property that might cost you $3,000 to $5,000 that would be a better scenario than you reducing the price by $15,000? As an example, if it's not sold right away, you might reconsider reviewing what can we do to help this property show better. Does it need some decluttering? Does it need some cleaning? What's the feedback? Is there anything that we can do to improve the saleability of this property to help it show better? Could save you thousands of dollars on the open market when you're looking at changing the price. Examples of this might be new flooring, or maybe new paint, maybe cleaning out the garage, maybe re-landscaping the yard. But remember, as we all know, it's a price war and a beauty contest, so you always need to make sure that you've done everything you possibly can to help your house shine in today's market, regardless of what's happening. When you're looking at price, one thing that you're going to need to keep into consideration is the fact that as this market is changing, it's going to take a little bit more aggressive approach to get a property sold sometimes. And because of that, how you come out of the gate originally with the price in the beginning is that much more important, because the risk that you're putting on yourself and your listing, having it become stale, is a lot greater considering the days on market continue to extend if it doesn't get picked up right away early on. So make sure that you find out what the goals are for your seller, and make sure you find out out what again is best case, worst case scenario, and be as competitive as you can early on price to make sure that you're making that buyer pool as big as possible so that you can, in a perfect world, get it sold within a reasonably quick, short period of time. Because if you end up chasing the market with things looking the way they are right now, prices, interest rates, etc. If you have questions about where your house might line up in our market today, feel free to reach out to me or an agent in your local market. I have connections all over as well. I can help you find an agent if you're not in my local market. But as always, thanks for being here today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on this video next. Have a fantastic day.